Hot water, bold hands. The alien girl took control of the shower. Unexpected encounter. The phosphorescent waves of Celestia 7 crashed against the observatory's transparent walls as Dr. Marcus Chen dragged himself through the airlock. 3 weeks into his assignment studying the moon's bioluminescent marine life, and he still hadn't adjusted to the 18-hour work cycles. His diving suit clung uncomfortably to his skin, saturated with the planet's peculiar organic compounds that made every surface shimmer with an ethereal glow. The research station's shared quarters were supposedly empty at this hour. Most of the mixed-species crew worked opposing shifts to maximize facility usage. Marcus stumbled toward the decontamination showers, his muscles aching from wrestling with equipment in the moon's unusual tidal forces. He barely managed to peel off his suit before stepping into the cylindrical shower chamber. Hot water, imported and recycled through complex filtration systems, cascaded over his tired shoulders. He closed his eyes, letting the warmth seep into his bones. The familiar comfort of water, even processed through alien machinery, reminded him of Earth's simple pleasures. The shower door's soft hiss barely registered over the water's rhythm. Marcus assumed it was the ventilation system adjusting until he heard a melodic voice say, "Oh, you're using this cycle. Perfect timing." His eyes snapped open to find Nyara Solaris stepping into the shower chamber with him. The Celestian xenobiologist moved with fluid grace, her skin adorned with naturally occurring luminescent patterns that traced delicate swirls across her shoulders and arms. Her silver-blue hair, which seemed to float as if perpetually underwater, framed features that were both alien and undeniably beautiful. "Nyara!" Marcus gasped, instinctively turning away while his hands fumbled for something to cover himself with, except there was nothing but water and transparent walls. The chamber was supposed to be empty. She tilted her head, those violet eyes sparkling with what might have been amusement. The schedule showed joint usage for this time slot. "Did you not receive the update?" Her voice carried the musical quality common to her species, each word flowing into the next like a gentle current. "Joint usage." Marcus's voice cracked slightly as he pressed himself against the smooth wall, acutely aware of the limited space in the shower cylinder. The warm water continued to rain down on both of them, creating ribbons of light as it traced her natural bioluminescence. "Celestians share cleansing rituals," she explained, stepping closer to adjust the water temperature on the control panel beside him. "I forgot that humans have different customs. Should I leave?" The question hung in the steamy air between them, charged with an unexpected electricity that had nothing to do with the station's power systems. Breaking barriers. Marcus's heart raced as Nyara waited for his answer, her luminescent patterns pulsing gently with her breathing. The rational part of his mind screamed that he should ask her to leave, maintain professional boundaries. But something in her patient expression, the way she stood completely at ease despite his obvious discomfort, made him pause. "No, it's fine," he heard himself say, though his voice betrayed his nervousness. "When in Rome, or rather, when on Celestia 7. A smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Your Earth expressions are fascinating. Though I don't understand why you would reference Rome when you're nowhere near that city." She reached past him for the organic cleanser, her arm brushing his shoulder. Where her skin touched his, he felt a subtle tingling, like static electricity but warmer. "It means adapting to local customs," Marcus explained, forcing himself to relax slightly. The steam was thickening around them, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. "Though I have to admit, this is quite different from Earth protocols." "Different doesn't mean wrong," Nyara said, working the luminescent cleanser into her hair. The substance glowed brighter against her natural markings, creating cascading patterns of light. "On Celestia, we believe water is sacred. It carries memory, emotion. Sharing it creates understanding between beings." Marcus found himself mesmerized by the way the water droplets caught and refracted her natural light. "In your research files, you never mentioned that." He'd read everything she'd published about xenobiology compatibility, partly for professional interest, partly because her writing style fascinated him. "Some things aren't meant for research files," she replied, turning to face him fully. "Like how you always drum your fingers to Earth music when you think no one's watching. Or how you smile at the bioluminescent specimens when they respond to your presence." "You've been watching me?" Marcus asked, surprised. "We're scientists," she said, stepping closer through the falling water. "Observation is what we do. Though I admit, some subjects are more interesting than others." The shower chamber suddenly felt smaller, more intimate. Marcus became acutely aware of every droplet running down his skin, the way the humid air made each breath feel heavier. Nyara reached up to brush a strand of wet hair from his forehead, her touch feather-light but electric. "Your shoulder," she noticed, her fingers hovering over the purple bruise spreading across his left deltoid. "The equipment accident yesterday." "The current caught me off guard," Marcus admitted. "Slammed me into the observation deck." "May I?" she asked, and when he nodded, her hands settled gently on his shoulder. Her touch was surprisingly warm, and where her fingers made contact, his skin tingled with an almost therapeutic sensation. Celestians have a natural ability to encourage cellular repair through bioelectric stimulation. Dancing in the mist. Nyara's hands worked carefully across his injured shoulder, her touch both clinical and tender. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin pulsed rhythmically, sending gentle waves of warmth into his muscles. Marcus found himself relaxing despite the intimate situation, the pain gradually melting away under her ministrations. "Better?" she asked, her violet eyes meeting his. This close, he could see flecks of silver in them, like stars in a purple nebula. "Much better," he admitted, rolling his shoulder experimentally. "That's incredible. How does it work?" "Bioelectric fields," she explained, though her hands didn't leave his shoulder. "All living things on Celestia evolved with them. It's how we communicate with our environment, how we heal, how we—" She paused, a deeper blue flush spreading across her cheeks. "How we connect." "Connect." Marcus's voice came out rougher than intended. The steam swirled around them, creating halos of light through her bioluminescence. "Every species has its own frequency," Nyara said softly. "Usually, different species' biofields repel each other slightly. But sometimes—" Her hand slid down from his shoulder to rest against his chest, right over his racing heart. "Sometimes they harmonize." Marcus felt it then, a subtle vibration where her palm touched his skin, like two tuning forks finding the same note. His own hand moved almost involuntarily to cover hers. "Is that what this is? Harmony?" She laughed, the sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You tell me, Dr. Chen. You're the one who studies symbiotic relationships in marine ecosystems." "Symbiosis requires mutual benefit," he said, his scientific mind grasping for familiar ground even as his body betrayed his growing awareness of her proximity. "What could you possibly gain from?" "You really don't know." Nyara interrupted, her free hand coming up to trace the line of his jaw. "Brilliant marine biologist, 3 published papers on interspecies communication, and you haven't noticed." "Noticed what?" "How I always find reasons to attend your presentations. How I request field assignments that overlap with yours. How my bioluminescence brightens whenever you enter a room." As if to demonstrate, her patterns flared to life, casting dancing shadows through the steam. Marcus's breath caught. "I thought that was just a physiological response to environmental stimuli." "It is," she said, stepping closer until they were sharing the same stream of water. "You're the stimulus." The confession hung between them, as tangible as the droplets that connected their skin. Marcus's hand came up to cradle her face, thumb tracing the delicate luminescent whirl along her cheekbone. "Nyara, I know interspecies relationships are complicated," she whispered. "But complications make the best discoveries, don't they?" Before he could respond, she rose up on her toes, closing the distance between them, her lips brushing against his in a kiss that sent bioelectric sparks through every nerve ending he possessed. Confessions in the steam. The kiss deepened as Marcus's arms encircled Nyara's waist, pulling her closer through the cascade of warm water. Her bioluminescent patterns flared brighter, casting azure and silver light through the steam. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily, the air between them charged with more than just humidity. "I've wanted to do that since your first presentation," Nyara admitted, her forehead resting against his. "When you spoke about the consciousness of collective marine organisms, your passion was Intoxicating. Marcus laughed softly, his hands tracing the glowing patterns along her spine. Each touch sent pleasant shivers through both of them. And here I thought I was boring everyone with my technical details. Never boring, she murmured, her lips finding the curve of his neck. I requested assignment to this station specifically because you were here. My supervisor thought I was crazy. Celestia 7 is considered a hardship post for my species. The gravity is uncomfortable, the days too long. You came here for me. Marcus pulled back to look at her, water streaming between them. But we'd barely spoken before. We spoke through our work, Nyara interrupted. Every paper you published, I read. Every response you made to my research, I memorized. Scientists caught through ideas first, Dr. Chen. The physical comes later. Her hands mapped the planes of his chest as she spoke, each touch leaving trails of warmth that had nothing to do with the shower's temperature. On Celestia, we have a saying, the mind opens the door, but the body crosses the threshold. We've been intellectually flirting for months, Marcus realized, wonder in his voice. The comments on each other's research, the coincidental meetings in the lab at odd hours. You're not as oblivious as you pretend, she teased, nipping gently at his earlobe. I've seen how you look at me during joint briefings. How your pupils dilate when I lean over your workstation. You notice my pupils dilating. He pulled her tighter against him, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his arms despite their species differences. I notice everything about you, Nyara confessed. How you absent-mindedly rub your jaw when concentrating. The way you humanize the specimens, giving them names. Your terrible habit of skipping meals when absorbed in research. Is that why lunch keeps appearing at my station? Marcus asked, understanding dawning. She nodded, suddenly shy. Celestian courtship includes ensuring potential mates are properly nourished. Though I wasn't sure if you understood the significance. I understand now, he said, cupping her face in his hands. Though humans have their own courtship rituals. We usually start with dinner, maybe a movie. Then we're doing this backwards, she laughed, the sound echoing musically off the chamber walls. Or maybe, Marcus suggested, kissing her again, slow and deep, we're creating our own protocol. A hybrid approach, you might say. When the kiss ended, Nyara's bioluminescence was pulsing in sync with his heartbeat, a visible manifestation of their connection. I love your scientific romanticism, she whispered against his lips. New beginnings. The water cycle timer chimed softly, indicating only minutes remained before the automatic shutoff. Neither Marcus nor Nyara moved to exit, instead savoring these last moments in their private universe of steam and starlight. We should probably discuss this, Marcus said reluctantly, his fingers still tracing the luminescent patterns along her arms. There will be questions, protocols, probably paperwork. So much paperwork, Nyara agreed with a groan that made him laugh. Interspecies relationship declarations, cultural accommodation forms, biological compatibility assessments. Romantic, he teased, pressing a kiss to her temple. The most romantic part is that I don't care, she said firmly. I've run the biological compatibility tests already. Purely theoretical, of course. We're genetically distinct enough to avoid any complications, similar enough for. She blushed, her glow shifting to a deeper blue, for whatever we choose. Whatever we choose, Marcus repeated, liking the sound of it. Though maybe we should start with that dinner. Tomorrow night? The observation deck has an incredible view of the bioluminescent tide pools. Are you asking me on a proper human date, Dr. Chen? Nyara's eyes sparkled with delight. I'm asking you on an us date, he corrected. Part human tradition, part Celestian custom. You can teach me about water memory, and I'll introduce you to earth jazz. We'll create something entirely new. The water shut off, leaving them in the dissipating steam. Nyara reached for the drying cloths, handing one to Marcus while wrapping another around herself. The simple domestic gesture felt surprisingly intimate after their confessions. I should warn you, she said as they helped each other dry off, her touch lingering on his skin. Celestian partnerships involve a lot of shared experiences. Mutual research projects, synchronized sleep cycles, conscious bioelectric bonding. And human partnerships involve movie nights, cooking together, and meeting each other's families, eventually, Marcus countered, then paused. How exactly do I meet your family when they're in another galaxy? Quantum communication, she said simply. Though my mother will probably flood you with questions about Earth's marine ecosystems. She's a deep-sea researcher herself. A family of scientists, Marcus mused, helping her wring water from her flowing hair. No wonder you understand my obsessions. As they prepared to leave the shower chamber, Nyara caught his hand. Marcus, this changes everything. You know that, right? Once word gets out, we'll be the station's most watched couple. There might be those who disapprove, who think interspecies relationships are too complicated. He lifted their joined hands, watching her bioluminescence pulse where their skin met. Every important discovery starts with someone saying it's too complicated. Besides, he pulled her close for one more kiss, the best things in the universe are complex. Stars, ecosystems, consciousness, us. Us, she agreed, her glow bright with joy. I like the sound of that. Dr. Chen and Dr. Soloris, conducting long-term research into interspecies partnership dynamics. Longest experiment of our lives, Marcus said, opening the chamber door to step into their new beginning together. Worth every variable, Nyara replied, squeezing his hand as they walked toward tomorrow. The end.